Hey there, I'm Sharon.
And I'm Désirée.
And this is the Other What podcast.
This is the Other What podcast.
The Other What. The Other What. The Other What. The Other One.
All right, guys. Thank you, everybody, for joining us again for another Other What podcast. We've been having so much fun prepping for this one coming up. Today, we're going to talk about what we call third spaces, but really, we're going to just talk about lesbian bars. And let's just call it what it is. Third spaces is the fancy word for it. But these were the places that Désirée and I, grew up with. Like, these are the places that were like our second homes.
Mhm.
Forget the third spaces. These were second homes to us back when we were young dykes and young lesbians.
Young.
And then young. And then what we want to talk about is what's happened to them over time, from the 2000s all the way up till now, over the last 20 years, stuff has really changed and evolved. And we're going to have a conversation about that. And I think what's going to be really interesting too is the layering on of just the fact that a lot of these lesbian bars are owned by white women. And there really isn't a lot of Black owned lesbian bars out there. And so what is it? What is that about? And we're going to unpack that a little bit with Désirée too. But before we start, I want to give a shout out to Désirée's Spotify playlist. If you have not listened to it yet, everybody's going to thank Désirée is really what what we're going to do, because it is sexy as hell. And I think it's awesome. And Désirée, you want to give
Thank
a little
you.
bit of what it's all about for you on this playlist?
The name of the playlist is Getting Sexy with Désirée. And if for anyone that knows me, knows that I love sexy, sensual music. And basically, I use it for anything that requires me to concentrate. So if I'm in a position of lovemaking, I need to concentrate. This is the playlist I listen to. If I need to write a paper for this damn PhD program I'm in, this is the kind of music I listen to. If I'm working out, this is what I listen to. So, you can find it on Spotify if you go to our website, www.theotherwhat.com, or even on Instagram at theotherwhat. You should be able to find it there.
Yeah, really fun.
Yeah.
I recommend everybody listening to it. And then I'm working on mine right now. So maybe in a couple weeks, you guys will see that launch. But mine's as usual, Désirée and I are complete
So
opposites. She's the sexy one. Remember, everybody, I'm the nerdy one that's just really, really weird and nerdy. And you were going to get some
Sharon,
fun,
I think there are plenty of
weird
people
stuff.
that find you incredibly sexy.
Yes, thank God.
Absolutely. We're just two different types of sexy.
We are thank you, Désirée.
You're
That's a
welcome.
very good way to
You're
put
welcome.
it. Yes. And I agree with that.
Yeah.
We're two different kinds of sexy. We got the nerd sexy. We got the sexy. It's that's kind of what it is.
There we go.
All right. So let's just jump into, instead of maybe second homes, third spaces, whatever this is, but what is up with these lesbian bars? What I want to do is take us back, Désirée.
Yes.
To when we were babies, right? And I'm going to take us back even
18.
before, maybe even when we were really babies. But I want to give you guys a nugget, a data nugget that I found online. In 1980, there were 200 lesbian bars in the United States.
Wow.
Now there are about 21 to 25. There have been some new ones that have opened, but then some that have closed. But we've gone down from 200 to somewhere in the 20s.
That's crazy.
Since 1980. That's crazy. And then when I started thinking about all the lesbian bars that were around when I was in college and then post-college, I counted like 6 or 7.
Mm-hmm.
Like pure lesbian bars. And now, right, Désirée, there's one.
Yes.
MSR is my understanding,
in Atlanta,
right?
that I could think of.
In Atlanta,
yeah.
And so, that's even something to say, like from the 1990s and 2000s to now, right? So let's kick this off. I'd love to hear from you, Désirée, and I'll go through my list as well, but where, back in the day, where you hung out, right?
Mm-hmm.
The lesbian bars. And then we can kind of go from there. And I'd love to tell some fun stories that I have from the lesbian bars when I was coming out.
Thank you, Sharon. This was really a tough one for me. I was really just racking my brain for like, where did I hang out? What was I doing back when I first came out? And I think because I was so fully engrossed in working with girls in the night, that most of my lesbian partying happened with that particular group. And it was mostly us throwing parties. And we could, do that at any type of club. But there was my sister's room. When I first started going there, it was in I think its second location, which was off of Howard Street, directly across from Agnes Scott, which it should have been. It should have stayed
That
there.
was the best, by the way, best
The best.
location. No offense to my sister's room that's out there
Yeah.
now. I'm so happy that you guys are there, but dude, the one in Decatur was classic.
It was great, yeah.
Remember like having like dance parties outside?
Yes.
Oh,
Yes.
dude, that patio, the backyard.
Yeah.
You have makeout sessions in the backyard. Nobody would see you.
Nobody would care.
It was amazing.
So my sister's room, the other side, was one of my favorite spots.
Other side.
Oh my gosh,
yes.
loved the other side. I was there pretty much every Wednesday from 1997 to 1999 because that was also the hip hop night.
Okay, so can I ask you a question?
You
Were
may.
you there when the bombing happened?
No, I came after the bombing happened. So the bombing was the summer during the Olympics time. So I didn't move until the following summer.
Okay. So I was out. I was actually, so MSR at the time was in Midtown, above where, like, next to the theater, right? That's where the original location was. And I was there, probably almost getting kicked out because we got kicked out all the time because I was underage.
Oh, yes.
And I was there, and then I got a phone call from some friends going, "Oh my God, are you at the other side?" Because they all knew that I was between one of the two, and that's when the bombing happened. So and I had my girlfriend at the time was at the other side, and she was like, "Join me." And I was glad that I had stayed at MSR.
Oh my
at that
gosh,
point.
that's scary. Was she okay?
So yeah, she was fine. Okay. She wasn't. So what they did for our listeners, if you don't know, this was back in the Olympics. There was a bomb. It was set off by the patio in the back. And so it there were cars that were damaged, and like the interior was damaged, and then there were about 150 people that were around the patio, but there were no like deaths or anything.
Oh my gosh,
thank God.
so scary.
But like it was super scary, and I kept on getting calls from people thinking that I was there because it was a very busy Thursday night, right? And I was there like most of the time, but ended up at MSR. Wow. So that was very crazy. Where else did you hang out, Désirée?
Oh gosh, lesbian spots. I can't think of any other like true lesbian spots, but I would hang out at the Marquette, which is a Black club it used to be off of MLK across the street from Clark, Atlanta. I don't think it's there anymore. I think it's off of a different street now. Back Street, of course. Was at Backstreet a lot. God, where else did I go? A lot of house parties. So the woman who throws the ladies at play, Shaitan, she throws the ladies at play parties that you and I went to. She started out just hosting parties at her loft, which was in Southwest at the time, like close into the downtown area, that part of Southwest Atlanta. So I had been going to her loft parties since 98, 99. And then she started kind of throwing her own parties, but a lot of more kind of house parties. I also got kicked out of Burkhart's, much like you, because underage. I had two fake IDs.
Yes.
I had two fake IDs, and I thought, oh man, I'll give the good fake ID, which that one ended up getting confiscated. And the guy like lectured myself and my roommate, who I don't think he was doing drag that night. We would go for karaoke, but so confident that we were not going to get kicked out. But anyway, they had my ID pictured up for many years in the back.
That's great.
Yeah.
So did you ever go to a bar called Tower that was on Ralph McGill?
Tower.
By any chance? Okay. So for me, that was our lesbian dive bar. We called it the Lesbian Trucker Bar because there were like these huge lesbian dykey trucker looking ladies. Have you ever eaten at Ria's Bluebird on Memorial before for brunch?
Yeah.
Okay. I met Ria before she opened that place up, and she was one of the big dykes sitting at the bar. She was huge. She's big dyke.
Yeah.
Like 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she's pounding back beers, right? And so me and my friends in college, we would go there on Wednesdays because they had quarter drafts, and we could play pool. And it was just a
So I was
really
at the
like
other side on
easy place.
Wednesdays. My Wednesday was booked.
See, there you go.
Yeah.
And then there was also, what was really cool about Tower was that they did this lesbian spoken word night,
Mm.
and it was called Clitorati.
Oh my
And
God,
so a
that's
bunch of
delightful.
it was so fun. And so a bunch of my
Clitorati.
South Asian friends, and a little shout out, this group does not exist anymore in Atlanta, which is so sad, but I was part of a group called the Asian Pacific Bisexual Lesbian Transgender Network. Oh my God, too much to say. Literally just a bunch of Asians and South Asian queer women who just got together. That's the group that you would always see me at,
Yeah.
Desiree. When we would
Always
cross
saw you.
paths,
Yeah.
we're like, look at all these Asian girls like hanging out
Right.
together. That was us. We called ourselves the Asian Cotillion whenever we went to to MSR in Decatur. But our acronym, we spelled it out Apple Button, APLBTN, and so it was like super cute and everything. Anyways, we did that. A lot of them participated in Clitorati. So I went to a lot of spoken word at Tower. I love Tower. What a shithole. Always looked like it was going to be falling down, but thank God for it. It was there all the time. So Tower, MSR, other side, totally on you. Same thing as you. I went to a bar called Red Chair a lot. It's actually where I met my ex.
Red Chair. Is that the one? Was it off in Amsterdam Street area?
Yes,
Okay.
Amsterdam Walk.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
right.
yeah.
Yes. So they had a bunch of L word parties there and all that kind of stuff. So I went to Red Chair. And then there was another bar like in Amsterdam Walk also called Bellissima.
Yes.
And it was,
I
remember
remember
that
that.
place? Yeah. We were trying to be, I think this was like the age of the L word, where people tried to elevate being a lesbian because we were cool, because we were on TV.
Yeah.
And so Bellissima was trying to be this like cool loungy space. And they really only lasted a couple years because they just couldn't keep it up. But it was fun. It was fun to do. The other places, hoedowns, obviously for us was like, I loved hoedowns, and that could be gay, straight, whatever. And then the place where I use my fake ID the most, and it's so lame, but I did it to go to Eddie's Attic because folk music and lesbians go hand in fucking hand.
Oh, Sharon.
And I know. I didn't even use it to get into the strip bars. I got it to go watch a woman strum a guitar. It was like awful. But I did it. And I got the worst fake ID ever. This woman, my friend's hand-me-down, and I didn't know how to pronounce her last name because it was Vietnamese, and the guy totally caught me, and he still let me in, and I don't know how it happened. But yes, so those are a lot of the places that I went to.
I paid for my fake IDs. There used to be, when I first moved to Atlanta, I was at Kennesaw State College, and there was a little ID place, like a legal business in the area that you could buy, like IDs, like you could say you went to certain colleges or whatever. So my roommate at the time, he and I, shout out to Weldon, he and I went and got fake IDs. I got 2 of them. One was like a Georgia one and one was Maryland. The Maryland one was pretty solid because we're in Georgia. Nobody knows what the fuck a Maryland ID looks like.
Right.
I just couldn't believe they had that, like, just open for you to get these crazy IDs, and it worked for a while.
I gotta love it. All right, so we're gonna take a little break. I think that's kind of our like walk down memory lane. And the next segment, we're gonna like go into some of this like what's happened to these bars kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So we'll be right back. Everybody, welcome back. All right, so Desiree and I just kind of took a walk down memory lane. I kind of loved back in the heyday when we had so many choices.
It's so much fun.
So much fun.
We still have fun
women
now, but back then we didn't care about consequences of our actions, and now we're much more concerned.
I think that's true, and I do believe that there were more choices.
Yeah.
Right? Like if you weren't feeling hip hop night, you could go to Tower and just go get a beer and shoot pool and still be at a lesbian bar, or like go get a martini or a champagne over at Bellissima or whatever. Right? Like they were catering to a lot of different demographics within the lesbian community.
Yeah, if you wanted a Studio 54 experience, you definitely went to Backstreet.
Backstreets. That's right. So I wanna open it up as a conversation on like what we talked about before. when I was looking at the remaining lesbian bars in the United States, most of them were owned by white women.
Mm-hmm.
There was one that was owned by two lesbian Black women down in Mobile, Alabama, called Hers, but they just closed last year, which is really sad. So Desiree, I want to kind of open that up to you. Like, why do you think that like most of the lesbian bars that are still around today are owned by white ladies,
Mm-hmm.
by white people? And we can have that conversation. And then I'd love to kind of like pivot that then into like, where do Black lesbians go these days? Like, what's available to them? And, how can we help our listeners with like where they would want to go?
Yeah. Well, I think it's a combination of like opportunity and resources. Do we have the resources to purchase or rent these types of spaces? Because this shit is not cheap at all. I think that there are so many lesbians, Black lesbians, Asian lesbians, even some of the white women that once you pretty much couple up, a lot of people don't go out anymore. So then there's not the audience for those type of bars and stuff. And I think that's why a lot of these clubs nowadays just might have a night or during a holiday weekend. Like Ladies at Play, they really only throw parties during a major holiday, so Memorial Day or Labor Day. And then you get everybody out then when it's more kind of, I don't want to say exclusive, but just more or not as often as other clubs. It's really interesting. I was even thinking about this in terms of, I don't even know, I don't think I've ever been to an Asian lesbian bar or one that was owned by Asians, or even like an Asian bartender at a bar, at a
Okay, I
lesbian
will tell.
bar.
At a lesbian bar, no, you are completely right. At a straight bar, yes. Yes. And so and that's in the more recent history versus like back when we were in the 2000s too. I think that like I did some research on this, and there's some really good links that we'll put in the show notes for this. One, we have a list of all of the remaining lesbian bars that are out there. So you can take a look at that, which is super cool. And there's actually a book and a podcast that I found. The book is called Moby Dyke, and it's this woman who goes to the last remaining
That sounds fun.
lesbian bars around the country. And then the other one is called Cruising, and it's the same. It's like three women who start going around all these lesbian bars. Again, all of them are white women.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So what's interesting is when I was reading the book or when I was listening to the podcast, I loved it, and I love that they're doing it, but they're also not doing it from a place of like being a person of color. And I thought that was super interesting. And one of the other pieces of research that we'll post in the show notes is I found an article about the 21 lesbian bars in America and why there aren't any like more women-owned bars or even for people of color. And I thought this was good. It's an assimilation of queer folks. So being queer is now more acceptable than it was for us, right? 20 years ago.
Yeah.
So you don't have to go to a lesbian bar or a gay bar to feel safe. You can just go down to your neighborhood pub and they're super cool with you getting chicken fingers and a beer and they don't care. There's gentrification. I think that the economics of it, I think it's a huge one, especially in Atlanta. So Tower was on Ralph McGill and it is now a freaking fancy condo. So sad. And remember Ralph McGill was rough. It was a rough area. Nobody wanted to be there. That's why the lesbian bar was there.
Yes.
And now where do you go? I don't know. It's because it is expensive, right? To have a bar. And then I also think it's dating apps, like how we met. You don't need to go to a bar to meet somebody anymore. You can meet online. And that's exactly what we did, right? And so I think a lot of that over the last 20 years has just evolved. And I think that's why you're just seeing the number of these kinds of bars shrinking.
Yeah.
And anyways.
That's a good observation on changing of times of that we can feel pretty much safe enough to go anywhere. It doesn't matter the bar at all. You can just kind of go out and meet people and nobody gives a shit.
Yeah. And like you meet queer, straight people at any of these bars now, right? So yeah, to me, I thought that was really interesting. And then I also believe, and this is a big one for me, just because when I was at Lesbians Who Tech, the founder did this presentation about the buying power of women
Mhm.
in general. We just don't make as much money as men. Most of us have familial obligations with children,
Yeah.
so our disposable income goes to that. We don't have the disposable income of gay men
Right.
or even like straight families, right? Because there is a male who can make, whatever, $1 more than the women. Anyways, the wage gap discrimination, because it's just continued to stay where it is or even widen, I think that also just drives down like how much we can spend
Mhm.
on ourselves versus sitting in. And I also believe as women, and this will never change, we are freaking nesters. And we're
Yes.
like,
Yeah,
ooh,
we
we
are.
found a
We
girlfriend. We're
found
not going out
somebody.
anymore. Like you're at the bar every single week for 6 months because you're on the
Yes.
prowl, and then you meet somebody and then you never go back,
Never
right?
go
For another
back, or
6
you just
months.
start doing things at home, as like having little friends come over, other couples, because I love
Right.
doing couple shit. Like when I'm
Yes.
in a
Yes.
relationship that I love having other couples to hang out with. So we do a lot of things at home, or we go on little trips together. But even when we go on these trips, we're still usually just nested in the house, or maybe go out to dinner. But a lot of times we just cook.
That's right. That's right. And you don't go out. And I think that that's also kind of just against us, right? Whereas like the gay boy bars, oh my God, I counted so many gay boy
Yeah.
bars. I have this like long list of the gay boy bars, and a lot of them are still around,
Mm-hmm.
right? I mean, it's definitely shrunk a little bit in the Atlanta area. Like we don't have Backstreets anymore. Burkhart's isn't there anymore. But dudes, like Model T's, it's still around. Woofs,
Gosh.
Bulldogs,
Yeah.
Marys, the Eagle, the Heretic. Like we've lost some of the more seedier ones, like the Phoenix. I'm okay without having the Phoenix. That was a shithole. But these are going strong because the boys they still have that disposable income,
Yeah.
and they're a lot more,
Blake's is
going
still
out.
open too.
Blake's is still
Yeah.
open. Yeah. So it's just very, very interesting, like story of like both the evolving world that's been around us being more accepting of being gay,
Mm-hmm.
but also how things have just not really changed a lot for women in general. And then I think then that even gives a bigger gap even for women of color.
Mm-hmm.
Totally,
Yeah.
right? And what I would love to do more research on, and maybe there's listeners who can help us with this. I mean, I lived in Korea for over a year, and people are like, "Oh, what was the gay scene like?" Dude, I did nothing in the gay scene. It was so sad. I didn't even go to one drag show. I went to a couple burlesque
Shame
shows,
on
but that
you.
was it. I know, shame on me.
Yeah.
Why? I don't know. I think it was hard to find, and I
Mm-hmm.
hung out with a lot of straight people when I was there. I didn't know any other gay people
Mm.
in Korea. And so I didn't want to go by myself to these bars. And so I would love to explore like Asian like gayness, like
Yes.
queerness, lesbianness, and in Singapore, which I think is where my family's from, is super interesting. Is I've started following some people on Instagram, and there are out lesbians in Singapore on Instagram, and I think it's super cool. But I don't like, it's a totally different place than when I was there last visiting in college. I would love to go to some of these like bars and see what it's like.
Yeah. You said something
Anyways,
really interesting to me just there. The fact that you didn't want to go by yourself. Why is that?
one, I didn't know the language.
Okay.
That's hard.
Okay.
And even though the gay bars were actually gay bars, yeah, the gay bars. There was not a lesbian bar; they were all gay bars, so
Okay.
very queer friendly. They were in the expat part of town, Itaewon, but I still didn't feel comfortable. I think I could have convinced one of my friends to go with me, my straight guy friends.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I just I just didn't do it.
Yeah.
Right. What I did do, and I can post some of these pictures, but I went to Korea Gay Pride, Seoul Gay Pride. Whoa, that thing was crazy.
That sounds
So
fun.
so what happened was they love to protest in Korea, and so you literally come off of the subway station, and it's like a festival, but it's all people who hate gay people. And it's like they have like stages where they're doing dancing and drumming and all this and chanting, and you have to walk through all of them to get to a the gated area where it was gay pride. And then you were in this like safe space, and you had to go through this gate, and right there, and there's police all around and
Mm-hmm.
all this kind of stuff. It was nuts. It was crazy, and all they wanted to do was drown you out. So all you could hear was like the drumming, and like it was insane. Maybe we can do one of the Instagram posts. I can post pictures. But going to like gay pride things in
Mm-hmm.
other countries,
Mm-hmm.
can have a whole conversation about that. But
Oh man, that would be fun.
anyways, it was insane. I mean, our executive producer, Mr. Andrew Marconi, me and him went to a trans pride in Istanbul. And then we ran very quickly from it because they had the water cannons on the tanks come out.
Holy shit.
And he was like, Sharon, we're leaving right now. And I was like, but we're having so much fun. And he like pulled me down like an alley. I was like, okay, fine. I don't want to be, you know. So it's amazing when you come out of America. Like, we talk about how sad it is that we don't have this freedom of these gay bars now, and that they're going away, but we have this freedom, which is kind of amazing.
Yeah.
And I think the rest of the world is still catching up with us.
Absolutely.
I think it's really interesting. So anyways, Désirée, any last kind of comments? I think on these second places for us and where we're going now.
This conversation has made me want to do more research, and you know, it would be fun if we could get somebody to sponsor us, like to go on a trip across America looking for Black-owned or Asian-owned lesbian bars.
Or even Latino-owned. Maybe there's some like
people of color in general.
People of color in general, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well,
we could totally.
In like New Mexico, when I lived in Albuquerque, I don't know if they were women-owned, but the demographics is much different there. So there's a lot of Mexican influence and culture there. So the bars that I went to there were all pretty much predominantly Mexican and gay, lesbian. But I don't know if they were owned by Mexican.
Interesting. See, I almost wonder if like the immigrant experience is against us to find this, because as immigrants, we're like, oh, there is one bar that I know of in Portland, Oregon, but it is not a gay bar. It is a women's sports bar. They only show women's sports, but she looks like a lesbian. The woman is an Asian woman.
That's recently open too, right?
Yeah, and it's called the Sports Bra or something like that.
Yes, the Sports Bra.
Yes, that's the only one I've ever seen like advertised on Instagram.
Maybe we start there and then work our way back east.
Yeah, I've never been to Portland, so we'll see. All right, guys. Well, for all the listeners, thanks for listening again. And if you have any other ideas on these, I'm going to even call them second. They're not even third spaces. They're second spaces to us. They were, at least for us. They're really special places. And I'm sad to see them go, but I also am very excited that we are evolving. Like, you can actually see us. Humanity is like moving and changing, which is kind of crazy. Good for the good or the bad. But yeah, like, thanks for listening. If you have any other recommendations, give us a shout out, and, you know, visit us at theotherwhat.com and on Instagram, and listen to Désirée's sexy playlist on Spotify and all that kind of good stuff.
Yeah. I just thought of something before we end this episode. So a couple of places in Atlanta now that I know that are Black spaces or women of color spaces. Ladies at Play, and I will add this to the show notes. Atlanta Black Gay Pride, which is typically in Labor Day weekend, so in September. In the DC area, because I also lived in DC for many years, you have a few DJs that throw parties, DJ India, DJ Mims. You have a group called A to Z, and we'll also add those. And I forgot to mention that when we were talking in the middle of the conversation. So sorry about that.
I bet there's a lot more that we don't know about.
Yeah.
And I think it's almost like we need to create a repository of all these. So people, please, like, tell us where there are safe places for people of color, queer, like, let's put them all together so that we can start having this. So we're not like, me and Désirée literally combing the internet trying to find this stuff, and it is hard.
Yes.
It is no wonder.
Yeah.
No wonder.
And
right?
I'm not on social media, so it's even harder. Like, I hardly know what's going on unless like friends like you or my friend Nikki will send me stuff like, Désirée, we should do this. I'm like, all right, let's go.
Yeah. And just watch out for one of our future episodes coming up. I am taking Désirée to gay country nights in a couple weeks. So we'll definitely have a debrief on that.
Do some line dancing.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you everybody for listening as always. And we'll talk to y'all later.
Love ya.
For more The Other What, check out our other episodes. You can find those at theotherwhat.com. Have comments, thoughts, or reactions to something we said? Be sure to subscribe and comment. The Other What is a production of 559 Labs. The Other What is hosted by Sharon Go and Désirée Jamerson. This episode was produced and edited by Andrew Marconi. Music by Alexei Anisimov. It was recorded in Atlanta, Georgia. Thanks for listening and be sure to tune in next time.